साद्वतं सावधूतं परिजन सहितं श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। नमो महावदान्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायिने कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरत्विषे नमः। पंचतत्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकम्। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे। जन्माद्यस्य त्वन्मयादितरतश्चार्थे सुभिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्म हृदय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः। तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। स्वस्ति अस्तु विश्वस्य खलः प्रसीदतां ध्यायन्तु भूतानि शिवं मिथो धिया। मनश्च भद्रं भजतादधोक्षजे आवेश्यतां नो मतिरप्यहेतुकी। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, chapter number 14. Reading from verse number 43. So these are the concluding verses of this chapter, in which there was a description given by Sukadeva Goswami to Parikshit about the allegorical story which Jad Bharat explained to King Raghugana in the last chapter. And this was all description of material life, how people remain in ignorance in the material world and try for something which is impossible to achieve, and ultimately become frustrated. So the solution is if one surrenders to God and understands the purpose of life. Otherwise, he said that it is just like trying to satisfy your thirst by drinking the water from the mirrors. You will never be satisfied. So then he concluded that the glories of Bharat, the son of Rishabdev, it's not possible to describe them because he was so great. And then he said that how even when he was young, he was king, he gave up his family, children, kingdom, everything, only to attain love of God. So he says that, I think this we did this, 43 we did. So we start from 44. Says Yodhistvajan Chitisuta Swajanartha Dharan Prarthyam Shriyam Survarai Sadeyavalokam Nachan Nripastaduchitam Mahatam Madhudvet Sevanuraktamanasama Bhavopi Falguhu. So again he is repeating what was said in the previous verse, that he gave up the kingdom, children, wife, relatives, all the opulence, which is so difficult to renounce. And Prarthyam Siryam Survarai, his opulence was so great that even the gods, the demigods, they desired it. Sadayavalokam, that opulence, who was looking at him with grace. Nachan Nripastaduchitam Mahatam, so the king does not desire that. And he says this indeed is appropriate. Why is that? Because usually everybody is running after wealth, power, position, good relatives. It's very rare these days to have a nice loving relationship. So he had all this. So why did he give this up? Because you don't give up something unless you find something better. No intelligent person will give up a position or power or wealth or possession unless there is something which is superior one gets. So you must have gotten something better than that. So that is love of God. There is nothing which compares to that. So he says Nachan Nripastaduchitam Mahatam, says it is indeed appropriate for a great person like him, because Madhudvit Sevanuraktam Manasa Abhopi Falgu, those whose minds are attached to the service of the Lord, for them even liberation is insignificant. So there is material power, material position, and beyond that is liberation. Of course, materialistic people don't understand the greatness of liberation. So they don't even want mukti, vairagya, this liberation or nirvana, because their minds are totally absorbed in the love of God. So that means this is the highest thing one can attain in this human life. There are various things we can achieve in our human body. So mostly people are endeavoring, striving for some material position or material relation. But anything material is temporary. Today you have some good position, power, wealth or relation. Tomorrow it may not be there. Anything can happen to us any minute. We can become sick, we can die, or we can lose our relatives, our wealth. So many natural calamities happen. Suddenly some storm comes, your house is blown away. Or you are blown away yourself. So it's very unpredictable, especially now that we travel at such a high speed. It can be finished any time. So first of all, we don't get enough of what we want, and if we get it, is very temporary. But God is permanent. God is always God. Nobody made God as God that somebody is going to take it away. Because those who become Prime Minister, President, it is people who elect them. And if they don't vote next time, then you lose your position. But God is not by anybody's vote. He is always God. So if you develop a relationship with Him, then that is permanent. So therefore he says that Madhudut Sveyanuraktam Raktamanasam Abhavopi Falgu. That says people do not care for anything else. So this is what he got. This is what King Bharat got, and therefore he gave up his kingdom. And this story is to show that this is what we should strive for, although we are not even like King Bharat. But we don't have to try to be like him to get all the power, position, wealth, and then give it up. We can do it even before and save ourselves from all the trouble. So he learned the hard way. We can learn from his story. That's why the stories are there. So the commentator says that Uktameva artham ullasena punarapi spashtikritya hayati. When Sukdev was narrating this story, he became over ecstatic. Sometimes when he describes some nice thing, you become very happy, you go on talking about it. So when he was talking about Bharat, he was so happy to speak about him. Because Sukdev is also a very renounced person. Bharat he renounced in his youth. Sukdev left his house as a child itself. So he was able to understand the mood of King Bharat. Therefore, out of happiness, out of enthusiasm, he repeats the same thing which he said earlier. He was not satisfied just by saying it once. Means he wants to stress this point. So therefore he says, because earlier also he said, Yadustajan Darasutam. He is saying words, Yadustajan Chitasut Sojan Arthadaram. So just he adds a little bit more. Prarthya Shriyam Survarei Sadayavalokam. That so opulent that even the gods were looking for it. Sadayavalokam bhartasya daya yatha bhavatu evam avaloko yasya iti parijana avaloka sriyamucharayati iti Swami Chana. So he says that the opulence was looking at him with gracefully, which means he was very gracious at him. Then he gives another meaning. Yadva bharato vairagyotham sarir kashtam masvikarotu maya lalyamano grihe eva tishtatu iti sadhyavloko yasyamta. So one meaning is that she was looking at him, giving her grace, or she was looking that he should not leave and be gracious, because he was saying that let Bharat, because he was such a nice person, he should not go to the forest and undergo all this trouble. So let him remain in the house being nurtured by me. So this Sadayavalokam means looking graciously, can be that she was looking for Bharat's grace, that he should be gracious on me, or she was being gracious on him, that don't leave the house and stay here, why should you take trouble? That is another meaning. Kramena karma jnana abhavo moksho api falgustuchas tatrapi virajyanti ityartha. So people like him, they don't take an interest in even liberation. And then he speaks of something even more wonderful. He says, Yagyaya dharmapatiye vidina punaya yogaya samkhya shirshe prakritishwaraya narayanaya hariye name ityudaram hasyam vigatpamapiya samila jahara. So before he took this human birth, he was a deer, and he remembered his past life as a deer. So he says that and before the deer he was a king. So first he was a king, then he became a deer, and then he became a sage. So in the deer life, when he remembered his king life, and when he became a sage, he remembered his deer life and also the king's life. Usually we don't remember our past life, right? We don't even remember this life, if to speak of past life. Our memories are so weak. But he remembered his at least 2 past lives. So it is being described that as a deer, when he was about to die, then he recited the prayer to the Lord. So he said that my obeisance is to Yajna, to the Lord who is called Yajna, Dharmapati, the master of religion, and Vidhinapunaya, and who is expert in the injunctions of the Shastra, and Yoga, who is the master of yoga, Sankhya Shirse, who is the chief of the Sankhya philosophy, and Prakriti Ishwaraya, who is the controller of the material nature. Narayana means who is known as Narayana and Hari. So he says that Namaiti Udaram Hashim Mrigatvamati. He spoke this, although a deer. Yasam Udajahar. So this is most surprising because animals don't speak. Animals, maybe some birds like parrot can say some words, but besides human beings, nobody has the proper tongue to speak explicitly. They make some sounds, some vowel sounds, but not words. But as a deer, he was able to do this. So this is very amazing thing. Of course, I was reading some commentaries. So other people were saying that he didn't say it. He just thought of it. Because how can a deer speak? But our commentators, they say that he actually said it. And that is because the name of the Lord and these prayers, and as we have been reading, that things which are related to bhakti, they are not material, they are transcendental. And transcendental things don't depend on anything material for their manifestation. They can become manifest if they like. So the Lord's name, it can become manifest even on the tongue of a deer if it wants to become manifest, because the name of the Lord is as powerful as the Lord Himself. Although it looks like any other material sound, but it is not material sound. It is a spiritual sound and it can become manifest because it does not mean anything. It can manifest even in the air without any meaning. So therefore it became manifest on the tongue of the deer, and therefore deer recited this prayer. So Ata Sri Krishna Namadi na Bhaved Grahya Indriya Sevan Mukho Hijivado Swami Evispratya. Rupa Goswami says this in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that name, form, etc. of Lord Krishna, they cannot be repeated or chanted or recited by our material tongue, nor can we see the form of God with our material eyes, nor can we hear His words. But if one becomes inclined towards service to the Lord, then these things can become manifest in the senses of such a person. So many times people raise this doubt that if there is God, then why we don't see Him? So the reason is that our eyes do not have the ability to see God. Because God is not like us. He does not have a material body. His body is spiritual. And therefore He can be seen only by spiritual power, not by material power. And you cannot deny this because you have no reason to deny it. There are many things we don't see. We don't see X-rays, but they exist. We can see the effect of X-ray, not the X-ray. So God also exists. And in case of X-ray, we can never see it, but you can see God if He gives us the power to see Him. And that power comes by devotion, by love. So the real thing is that because we don't love God, therefore He does not make Himself available to us. Why should He? He makes Himself manifest to those who love Him. So just as God can manifest if He wants, and He can manifest anywhere, He does not have to take birth from parents as we have to. So in the same way, His name can become manifest. Just as His form can become manifest, His name can also become manifest. So that is what is being described here. So he says that yagyaya iti tribhi padai kramena karma jnana bhakti marganam yathotram utkarsho venjit. Says that these three words, yagyaya, dharmpatiye vidhina punaya, yogaya, sankhasirse prakrtishwaraya, narayanaya, hare namah. So he says that there are description of three things mentioned here. That first there is a statement about karma. This yagya, dharmpati and vidhunatunaya. This is related with karma. Because karma means karma people who were following the Vedas in the past, they were performing rituals based on the Vedas. So doing yagya. And dharmapati, that karma is also called dharma. Dharma means doing your prescribed duty, that's what karma also means. So dharmapati and vidhi napuna, vidhi means injunction. So this purvamimamsa or karmamimamsa, on the path of dharma karma, it is based on the vidhi injunction. The Vedas give injunction that you should do this, you should do that. So swarkamo yajet. So that word is used. So these three names of God which are used here. Yagyapatiya, Yagya, Dharmpatiya, Vidhinapuna, they are related with karma. And then next three words, Yogaya, Sankhya, Sirshe, these two, they are related with Jnana. So yoga also means Chitta Vritti Nirodha Yoga. So trying to retract your senses from sense objects. That is also done in the Jnana, because Jnana is based on Vairagya, renunciation. And Vairagya is also the basis of yoga. And Sankhya Sirsha, Sankhya is also on renunciation, based on this. So these two are related with yoga or jnana, both. And then we have Prakriti Ishvara, Narayana and Hare. This is related with Bhakti. So there is Sakam Bhakti and Niskam Bhakti. There is Bhakti with material motives. So for that Prakriti Ishvara, he is the master of Prakriti. People can approach him for some material boons, like Dhruva was doing austerity. And Narayana and Hare is pure devotion. So these three paths are being described in this one verse, and they are in the order of their superiority. Jnana is superior to karma and bhakti is superior to jnana. So that is the indicated meaning. So the slokas have their direct meaning and then they have their suggested meaning, or some teachings they give. The sloka, if you read it, just a prayer that I give my obeisances. But in this prayer, indirectly, it has been stated that bhakti is superior to jnana and jnana is superior to karma. So this is not visible, this meaning, but it is there. So vidher yagya vidhi napunai asmat tasmai. This is the meaning of vidhi napunya. And the word hasyan means tyakshan, tena maran kale na udajahara, tatha sati jahaditi uchyete. So he says that the word which is used is hasyan, means while desiring to give up his body. Not when he gave up the body or when he was giving up the body. So he recited this when he desired to give up the body, not when he gave up or when he was about to give up. This is the subtle difference. Therefore the word used is hasyan. Otherwise he would have used the word jahat. Means giving up. So there is a difference between giving up and desiring to give up. So that means he did not recite it. Of course, no one can recite when one is dying, it has to be before. But he did not do it just before that. Because if he had done that, he would have become liberated. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyaste ante kalevaram tam tave veti kaunteya sada tad bhav bhavita. So, whatever state of mind one has in the time of death, then he attains that. And if you chant the name of God while dying, then you become liberated. That's the principle. So, Krishna says this in 7th chapter that one remembers me at the time of death, then one does not have to take birth again. Smaran muktva kalevaram. So Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says that Tena marana kale na udajahara, that he did not do this while he was dying. Tatha sati jahaditi uchyate. If that was the case, then he in the verse should have said jahad, not hasyan. So he has done a very minute analysis. Bhagavata eva svabhakti udrekartham punarjanishyamanatvat iti bhava. Why did this happen? Because Lord wanted him to take one more birth, so that he will become more devoted to him. That was the reason. Although he desired, but he did not do it at the last minute. Yedam Bhagavat Sabhajita Avadata Guna Karmano Rajarshe Bharatasya Anucharitam Swasti Anam Aishyam Dhanyam Yasam Swargya Upargya Anushrunoti Akhyati Abhinandati Cha Sarvaya Vasisha Atmana Asasti Nakancham Pattavati. So this is the last verse of this chapter, and he gives the benefit of reading this. He says that, O king, the fine character of King Bharat is glorified even by great devotees. his life was very auspicious, and anyone who hears this story or recites it for others or praises it, then all his desires are fulfilled, and there is no need for him to beg from anybody. Whether these desires are for long life or for wealth. Two things people want, right? That I get money and I live long without any disease. This is desirable by all. So this you will get by hearing the story. Very simple. And there are some other things people want. You want also that your name is known, you are a little famous. At least people in your street know you. Some extraordinary. Knowing, not just knowing, but they know you that you are somewhat extraordinary. So everybody wants some praise, some fame. So that also comes. And finally one can also go to heaven. Heaven is a very nice place. Not very cold, not very hot. It's like all the time spring season. And there are nice gardens there called a Nandana garden. And there are trees. If you go to them and ask for a dress, they will give you a dress. If you ask for a sweet chocolate, no problem, Cadbury, immediately supplied. So everything is very nice in heaven. You can also go there. And you can also attain moksha. So one who hears this and recites this, praises it, all these desires get fulfilled. Not bad, right? Don't have to do anything, just listen. Not even have to open your mouth. So Bhagavata hi Sri Bhagavate asmin shastre va sabhajita. So it says that Bharat is Bhagavata sabhajita, means he is praised by Bhagavata, Bhagavat Purana is praising. Or Bhagavata also means devotees of the Lord. He is praised by the devotees of the Lord. So he is so great. Why? Because Avdata Suddha Gunaha Karmaniyas. That his qualities and his activities, they are flawless. Usually we don't know anybody who is perfect. Recently I read an article, it was in the New York Times. Is God perfect? So this person is raising a question that God is not perfect. Because if he is perfect, why there is so much mess in the world? So this is his reasoning why God is not perfect, and then he's speaking from Bible point of view, Old Testament, New Testament, and he says that actually if you read Old Testament or New Testament, nowhere you find God being depicted as perfect. He sometimes gets angry, sometimes he changes his mood, he's like very moody, or he cannot solve problems. So he says that it is later on people who started saying that God is perfect. But he is not so, at least in the Bible. But here it is said that Bharat Maharaj was perfect. God's devotee. So if the devotee is perfect, then God also must be perfect. So Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Gacchate Purnasya Purnamada Purnameva Vasishyate. God is called complete, and anything which comes from Him is also complete. So He is perfect, He is complete, but we don't understand. We try to understand God with our material brain. It is not possible. Because when someone is performing some action, making a decision, we always comment. But actually our comment may be wrong because we may not really understand what is the intention of that person in doing it. If we understand the intention, we may actually say, yes, actually there is nothing wrong with it. But when we do not understand the intention, then we find fault, that there is something wrong. So it is not possible even to understand the human mind. First of all, we don't even know what mind is. Right? Anybody knows what is mind? And we don't mind. So we don't even understand our own mind. We don't know what is going to happen to our mind next second. What thought will come, what desire, what emotion. How can we know others' mind? And then how can we know God's mind? So we can only know God's mind if God Himself speaks to us about His mind. That's what these books are talking about. So this information you will not find in Bible. What is being spoken here. So this person who wrote this article should actually read Bhagavatam. That's why this book is called Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam means that which describes what is Bhagavan, which is a Sanskrit word for God. If you want to know what is Bhagavan, what is God, how His mind works, then you have to study Bhagavatam. Not just read, you have to actually study it. Then you will understand a lot. Of course, God is unlimited, we cannot know everything about Him because God Himself does not know Himself fully. How can He know Himself fully when He is unlimited? If He can know Himself fully means He is limited, not unlimited. So something which has no limits, how can you encompass that in your little brain? Not possible. So we can know something about Him, not everything. But at least we should know this much, that He is not having the defects which are applied to Him by this person. Even if He gets angry, He may have a purpose in that. So he says that this Bharat is spoken here in this Bhagavatam, or he is glorified by the devotees because the word Bhagavata can mean both. And he is completely pure, he is perfect, there was no defect in him. Whether his qualities or his activities, both. Atmaneviti sarvavanchitani tasya anayasena svata praptani. So one who listens to this story carefully, with full attention, and deliberates the meaning of the story, then he can get any of these things. Because when this type of statements are made in Shastra, they are of course not made for those who are interested in pure devotion. They are some kind of advertisement, sale techniques. It's like you go and they say, buy one, get one free. So although you don't want to buy, but when you see 40% discount, you may buy. So like that, people don't want to read Bhagavatam. They want to read newspaper or some magazine watch TV or go on the internet. Who wants to read Bhagavatam? Who wants to hear Bhagavatam? So to make them interested that whatever you are looking for in your life, you can get that from this very knowledge. And this is a fact. When I say this is a sales technique, it is not that it is wrong. It can happen. But you have to become qualified. Qualification is that you must be sincere about hearing and sincere about your desire. Then it can happen. Because Bhagavatam is also a representation of Krishna himself. So God can fulfill that desire. But these types of statements are not meant those who naturally like to study Bhagavatam. They are to make other people interested. That is the real reason. So he says, whatever one wants, one will get that. Sarva vanchitani tasya anayasam, easily. So these statements are not exaggeration. If you want to have long life, if you want to have wealth, if you want to have fame, if you want to go to heaven, if you want liberation, merging in God's effulgence. So he says all this is possible. So this is the end of 14th chapter. Now comes the 15th chapter. So if you remember, there was stories of Rishabdev. And then Rishabdev gave instructions to his sons. And Bharata was the chief of his sons. He was the eldest. So we read the story of him. Now he gives some lineage here. Basically, they are just names. So he says, Bhartasya atmajaha sumatir nama abhihito yamuhavav kechit pakhandina rishabha padavim anuvartamanam chanarya aveda samamnatam devatam swamanishya papiyasya kalau kalpishyanti. So the son of Bharat's name was Sumati. This was said also earlier. And he followed the path of Rishabdev. So Rishabdev followed the path of being an avadhuta. Avadhuta means that there are class of sages that they don't care for anything. They can sit anywhere, they can eat anywhere, they can lie down. Means they don't follow any rules and regulations because they are absorbed in their meditation. So such people are called avadhuta. So if you remember, Rishabdev in his last part of his life, he was also king. He gave up and then he wandered like an avadhuta, naked, not even putting on cloth. So Sumati also followed that path. Means he followed his grandfather. But the problem is this, that some unqualified people in Kali Yuga, they will become follower of this Sumati and they will not respect the Vedic literature. And they will follow him, considering him as some god or devata, some demigod. So this is what the Jains are. The Jains, originally they were only Digambar, naked. And then they became two sects, one with cloth, other without it. So Vishnath Chakravarti said, Atha Panchadase Ragyo Gayasya Mahima Uchyate Ya Priyavarta Vanshanam Antyosya Virajasya Cha. So he said in this 15th chapter there will be story of King Gaya, and then he will talk about the list of kings and the last one in the dynasty of King Priyavrata. Kalau tasya charitam shrutva tadrish acharvanto अस्माकं सुमतिरेव देवता यथा बुद्ध इति बौद्ध संप्रदाय अनुच्छिद्य kalpishyanti. So he says that in Kali Yuga, some people will follow him after hearing the lifestyle of Sumati. They will like to also imitate him, and like Buddha. And they will not give respect to the scriptures, because both Jain and Buddha, they did not do that. So they will make their own imaginary rule how to follow. Tasmad vriddhasenayam devatajin nama putra bhavam. And then Sumati, his wife's name was Vriddhasena, and from that a son was born whose name was Devatajit. Tasmad Vriddhasenayam Devatajin Nam Putra Bhavat Athasuriya Tattaniyo Devadyumnas Tato Dhinuvityam Sutta Parmeshti Tasya Suvachlayam Pratihe Upjata. And then Devatajit, he got a son whose name was Devdyumna from his wife known as Asuri. Then Devdyumna, he got Parmeshti from his wife called Dhenumati. And then Parmeshti from Pratiha, that is the name of his wife, got Suvarchaloke. Suvarchalaka. And तस्य सुवर्चलायां प्रतिहोपजात ये आत्मविद्याम आख्याय स्वयं संसिद्धो महापुरुषम अनुशासना. So he was the knower of transcendental knowledge, or knowledge of the self, Atma Vidya. So he purified, or he perfected this knowledge himself, and then he left, became a great person. Pratihat Suvarchalayam Pratihatradyastrayasan. And then from Pratiha and his wife Suvarchala, he got 3 sons. And these 3 sons were Pratihatradyastrayasan, Jya, Kovida, Suna. So these were the 3 sons, Pratihata, Prastota and Udgata. All 3 are related with Yajna. Udgata is the Purohita priest, which is related with Samga. And Prastota, Pratihata, they are also used. Therefore it is said that they were very expert in doing Yajna. Trayasana, Ijja Kovida Sunva Pratihata. Ijja is worship. So this is just a list of kings. Then he is going to talk about King Gaya. We'll read that tomorrow. There is a place called Gaya in Bihar. And this is famous for performing Shraddha. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also went there after his father died. So that is after the name of King Gaya. There are 2 different stories. There is one story in Mahabharata which says that Gaya actually was an Asura. performing great austerities, and then Brahma came and asked his body, and he lied down, and Brahma did yajna on his body. And then he gave him this boon that anybody who will do Shraddha here, then his forefathers will be released. And then here Bhagavatam speaks of Gaya as a king, who was very great king that Lord personally gave darshan. So these are two separate Gayas.
It's also important for the Buddhists, right?
Bodh Gaya. Yeah, because Buddha got enlightenment. So, any question?
When you were talking about Bharat as a deer, you said there were reasons why he didn't utter the holy name at the time of giving up his body, but when he was desiring so. And Krishna wanted him to take another birth. And I can't remember if I heard it from you or somewhere else, but I seem to remember that the reason also was that he desired to have a specific relationship to the Lord, and therefore he had to take another birth.
Yeah, both are same. Because Krishna also wanted so that he becomes more eager.
So does it mean that he already had in mind to have one of these rasas? Did he already cultivate that as King Bharat, this specific rasa?
Well, it is said that it is Krishna who wanted him. So that's why he made him take another birth.
And did he, as Jabbarada, did he develop this specific relationship?
Yeah, must have.
But we don't know which one was of all of the
It's more like Swanta Bhakta, but hard to say because he didn't do anything. So what he was doing is all inside.
And Sukadev's enthusiasm at reciting the story of King Bharat, why was he so, because he already attained all this. Why was he so enthusiastic?
When there is another person who is devotee like him, he's happy.
And about when Mahaprabhu was going through this forest of Jarikanda, there were all these animals also. They became,
And also chanting.
they were also chanting. In the real sense.